lounging, son.
All right, cool. Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and with me today, I have a very special guest. I have Kaare Andrews, one of my favorite artists in comics. I mean, everything you do is just so dope and one of the most, and super versatile in terms of like the difference in styles with your covers, with your interiors, your writing too. And it's just a huge pleasure to be able to have you here today, dude.
Well, that's thank you very much. It's very nice of you to say the nice things.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been a huge fan of your work for a long time. I think Spider-Man Reign might have been my first book that I got of yours. Huge Iron Fist fan. So your Iron Fist Living Weapon, one of my favorite stories. But before we get into some of the like your work, I'd really love to hear a little bit, you know, your story on how you got into comics, in terms of like being turning your love of comics as a fan and then turning that into a career in comic books.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, the first book I ever remember reading was a comic book, and that's not the first one I ever read. That's the first one I remember reading, and I remember reading it when I was 4, and it was Fantastic Four annual with I believe the X-Men were in it, and I just have such vivid memories of not being able to read the words at all, but being able to follow the story and being mesmerized by the story that I could, you know, that was on the pages in front of me. And I've just always read comic books like my whole life. Like I don't have a memory of being introduced to comic books because it was just always there for me. And we do a lot of road trips. I'd always buy comic books. We'd go to the store. My brother would buy a chocolate bar. I'd buy a comic book. Like it was like, you know, just always loved it. But when I was a kid, there wasn't actually any difference for me between comic books or movies or animation or toys. Even they were all just kind of like the one thing that I loved. And then at a certain point, the world is like, those are different things. You can only do one of them. If you want to do, if you try to do one of them, you can maybe only do one of them. And I was a bit torn because I still, when I was a teenager, kind of thought of them as one thing, but I decided to, I was really torn between what to do. And I decided to do comic books first because it seemed harder and to break into, you know, kind of a smaller industry. Even then it was still a big industry, but compared to film or animation or whatever. And I just decided to go for it. So I started doing sample pages in my teens, and I didn't start submitting them until I went to art school. And then while I was in art school, I started actually submitting my sample pages. I went to my first San Diego in art school. I really started taking it seriously in art school. And then after about a year and a half of art school, I kind of got, it was not a great school at the time for comic book artists. It's the same school that John Byrne dropped out of and Carrie Nord dropped out of and Joni Mitchell dropped out of. So I also dropped out of it. It's since gotten much more comic book friendly, but at the time it was not. And so I moved home, moved into my mom's laundry room, because that's all she had for me at the time, because my old room was being used. I think she had a boarder at the time. And I just focused on like breaking in. So I spent a year just like really driving hard, like getting samples, started going to cons, getting my rejection letters, working on samples, trying to make connections, just trying to like thump my head against the wall. And it, you know, I didn't have a lot of money, was really broke, and living in right beside the laundry machine, drawing into the wee hours of the night with, you know, my early morning sleeps being interrupted by the dryer cycle. But those are good memories, man. I really like, when I think back at those memories, they're good memories. They're fun memories. And I just started breaking in just piece by piece. I got my first thing I ever did was I met some writers in San Diego, and they were doing an anthology, and it wasn't paid work, but it was a chance to get work published in print. And at the time that was a big deal. Now there's digital comic books are more of a valid medium, but there wasn't really any then. And so the writers footed the bill, and us artists did the heavy lifting, because it's, you know, it takes about 5 times more time to draw than to write. And we created this anthology, and that was called the Writer's Block Anthology. Great guys. And then I just started getting like, I got a pinup for $40 from this little publisher, and then I got contacted by this Hong Kong publisher called Octomica, and that was my first real job, and just kind of built up. And then when I found myself, there just was enough momentum at a certain time that I was offered work simultaneously almost by both Wildstorm and Marvel. Everything kind of just, you know, you build up enough momentum, and then no one can hold you back anymore. And then you just kind of like, when you're ready to hit, everyone's ready to have you. It's so, if for anyone who's trying to break in, it's real. It was hard then. It's hard now. It's probably harder now. But if you build up enough momentum, they'll all want you when you're ready. And just maybe you're just not quite ready yet. So just keep at it.
I like that, man. Yeah, because I mean, like, comic books are a medium that's probably my favorite of all entertainment, mediums. Like I've been reading comic books probably since I was 4 too, and I don't remember how I got it. I just know that it was there, and I still have it to this day. I never got rid of it. It's beat up and circled with crayon on the books I wanted to order from Mile High Comics.
Yeah.
But I still got it, and I like that. I like that. The inspiring fucking stuff, dude. That you just kept hitting it, dude. And you didn't stop until you got to what your goal was. And
well, let me tell you, it's a little bit weird because you don't. It's not like you get the goal and then life is great. It's like you hit the goal and then you find you actually have to work harder. Like it was hard. It was really hard to generate enough sample pages of a certain quality to get that first job offer. And then all of a sudden a 20-page book is thrown at you. And it's just like, it's like getting caught in a wave by surprise. You're just like face down in the ground and you have to push through those 20 pages. And I think a lot of artists can really sink themselves with that first offer because it's a big leap to go from I'm going to spend a month drawing 5 pages to like, hey, you've got 20 pages. And the reason where you got the 20 pages is because we're late. So we need them in 3 weeks. It's a shock. And then I remember drawing those pages and thinking, okay, these are good. These are good pages. Okay, I feel proud. And then I saw the book in the comic book store and they were so poorly drawn. I was so embarrassed. I didn't even want to tell anyone that my book had come out. And I just realized I'm just going to have to just go to another level. Like this is not good enough. Like once you see your work printed, all your flaws are just crystal clear. You're right next to your favorites on the stands and you realize, oh my gosh, like I need to get better quick.
And how, like, so from that, the initial like stuff that you got, the initial, like couple issues here, the pinup stuff like that. You not only were illustrating, but you were writing your own stuff too. Like that's how I discovered your work. Like you were writing your stories. It wasn't just like an issue drawn by you.
Right.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about like Spider-Man Reign and, Iron Fist and like that want to not just illustrate your own stories, but to really have the control to like tell your story and your vision.
I think control is a good word because when comics were in the heyday, when I was like a little kid, it was like the 80s. And a lot of my favorite comic book creators were both writers and artists, whether it was Howard Chaykin or Frank Miller or Todd McFarlane or whoever, like Jim Steranko, like whoever. The people the work I was drawn to was from writer artists. And I think it's because they had the control over the material that you could really get a signature feel from each of these separate individuals creating this medium. And just for speed, comic books have always been kind of like divided into different tasks. A writer is different than a penciler, is different than an inker, is different than a colorist. But my favorites were always the ones that did most or a lot of that stuff themselves. And I think you can see it in the world today, like the way power structures try to control people is to divide them. You can see it today in everything from gender to race to nation to politics to whatever. There's so much overt division right now. And it's no coincidence that it's a time when there's such an effort to control large masses of society. Like that's not a mistake. So there's always that, divide and conquer. Here's what you find out is when you do the different tasks yourself, when you create a unity, whether it's different people, all those different groups, if you come together, you have the power. So if you're a person, if you're an individual and you can take different tasks and do them yourselves, you just have more power as a creator. And you can do things you could never do if you're just one of 5 different people. And I knew immediately that I wanted to write and draw. And I knew immediately if I broke in as a penciler, because I was almost given an opportunity to break in as a colorist because I've always done all these things myself. I always knew how to color, knew how to write, knew how to draw, knew how to ink. But I knew if I broke it, I was given an opportunity to break into the colorist, and I was like, oh no, I can't. Like that road is too hard because I'm going to be a writer artist. So if I break in as a colorist and then become a writer artist, that's like I'll wait. I'll wait.
Mhm.
At the time, pencilers had a lot of power, and I knew if I broke in as a penciler, I could push to write. Even though there wasn't many writer artists or even any at the time, I knew I could do that. And so as soon as I got my first real job from Marvel, I was like, I'm gonna first I tricked them into letting me ink my own stuff because I was doing covers. And at the time, if I could, you had to FedEx everything. So I was given a cover to draw. I penciled it. I had to FedEx it to Marvel. They FedExed it to the inker. They FedExed it back to Marvel. They FedExed it to the colorist. They FedExed it back to Marvel. So a cover could take like weeks just in transit times. But I knew I could ink my own stuff. So there was a cover, they were behind. I was like, if I ink this myself, I could just do both tasks and save you the FedEx. And they're like, oh, okay, great, that would really help. And then the next one's like, well, if I could color this myself and just save you all that time. And then like they're in such a pinch, they're like, okay, great. And I became known immediately as someone who could do those different tasks and save them time. And so I started getting more covers. And so, so I just was like, kept pushing to, I want to write too. I want to write something. I knew the faster I could start writing, the less of a question it would be like, oh, this guy wants to write, and I remember having a conversation with Axel Alonso back in the day about that very thing. I was like, yeah, I really want to write something. And he's like, Kaare, listen, a lot of pencilers want to write. It's actually much harder than it appears. We can talk about it, maybe in the future. And I think I've got this anthology called Tangled Web. If, we can maybe try, if you have any ideas, we can maybe try to do something. And I just hit him with like a fully drawn, complete issue, not finished pencils, but layouts. I drew my layouts, I lettered the layouts. I sent them to him as if something he could read. Like not just words and like, oh, how's he going to draw this? But oh, here's how he's going to draw it. Here's the layout of the page, the panel to panel storytelling. And he was like, oh, this is really good. Let's do it. And I just pushed as fast and hard as I could. At the same time, I was given a one shot to write and draw manga versus Spider-Man.
Right.
Because I kind of had a manga-esque aspect to my work back then for some of the ways I drew.
Mhm.
And I think it was kind of at the time, it was a bit of a devalued title, this Mangaverse thing. And they just needed someone to do it. And they're like, you want to do one of these books? And I was like, yes, Spider-Man. And they're like, great, do it. So it's just like, you get in off these little opportunities. Someone gives you an inch of a doorway, you grab the handle, you push it open. Like you just need to arrive. And so I did both one shots. They came out about the same time, maybe a month between. And I just immediately was like, I want to do more. I want to do a mini series, or I want to do an ongoing. And I ended up not doing that first. First, I ended up actually just drawing a book that Zeb Wells wrote, Doc Ock Year One kind of thing. Well, I can't remember. I think I actually just need someone to draw it. And I was like, okay, cool. I wasn't quite ready to write my Rain yet. But I think we're still figuring that out. But this could be something I could just get going on. And so I did that first. And then immediately I came out with the Spider-Man Rain. And it was really just like, I just need to get that done as fast as I can, just so it's not a question, just so I'm not a penciler that wants to write. I'm a writer artist. Even if I'm a bad writer artist, I'm a writer artist first. And then, just to set the table,
Mhm.
and then I just started getting, more offers to write and draw. So that was just kind of how it worked.
And in terms of like writing and drawing your own stuff, what's the process like? Do you write out a loose plot for yourself? Do you go straight to drawing, do layouts, and then do like how does that all work?
Yeah, so I have come up with a system by now of how I do it. There's every which way to do it. I've done everything from trying to write the full scripts to trying to just draw. I've tried all different ways. The way I have it down now is I come up with a kind of a 1-page, 2-page synopsis outline of what that 5-issue story will be, just in like 1 or 2 pages. And then I just written, and then I break those up into paragraph chunks of what each issue might be.
Mhm.
And then what I do is just in a text document, I do 1 sentence per page of the story. So 20 sentences is 20 pages of a story. And then I can track like this issue goes to this issue, goes to this issue, goes to this issue. And then I if I have ideas, I'll have a file the whole time, just random ideas that they come to you in the middle of the night. I write them on my phone. I keep them. But what I'll do is I'll just start drawing. So I'll just start at page one usually, and I'll just start drawing the story, drawing that page, turning the one sentence of text into 4 to 6 panels of a page. And as I'm drawing, I'm writing dialogue as I draw, just notes. Sometimes sometimes I can't think of anything, but I just know what they're doing. And sometimes I have a lot that I want them to say, and I'll just take little scribble notes down. And then once I've kind of laid out all my pages, then I go back and do a dialogue pass. And then I take my dialogue pass, and if I have time, I will actually letter my layouts. It's very helpful if I have time, because when you actually put the words to your art, everything changes, even if you've done both. And you realize when you don't have space, you realize what needs more, what needs less, and it kind of like works. And then I submit that as my script to my editors. And sometimes they have notes. Oftentimes it's just go for it. And then I'll pencil it and ink it and then rewrite it once that's done. And I'll get a lettering pass and then go through again. So it's really like, it's like waves of the ocean on a beach. Like each wave is another pass of the whole thing. So I'll do the outline is a text pass, and then I'll do the per page as a pass, and then I'll do the layouts as a pass, and then I'll letter the layouts as a pass, and then I'll do the penciling as a pass, the inking as a pass. The actual lettering, I don't do the lettering, but it'll come back as I'll rewrite it for lettering, a pass. And then if I'm coloring, that's when I'll then color it as a pass, and then I'll see the lettering with the colors, and then I'll do one more pass, and then I'll let it go. So, and then the good thing about doing those passes is if you've ever run into a crunch, you've still gone through the whole issue. And the more you can go through the issue in full passes, the better. But sometimes if you run out of time, if you're on a truncated schedule or family emergency, something like that happens, you've still addressed the whole issue. There's always a moment you can jump off. I remember Drew Struzan, I was watching him talk about how he paints posters. He does a pencil pass, he does a color blocking pass, he does a highlight pass, he goes over it again. So each time he's actually doing a finished piece. His pencil thing is amazing, but then, oh, now he adds color. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, now he's rendered all the highlights. Oh, now it's even more amazing. So, but at any stage, if he just dropped dead, you could take that painting of his and just hang it on the wall, and it would be amazing.
Yeah, he's an amazing artist. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. His movie posters are just like ingrained in my memory. You mentioned Axel Alonso, who, I think I've often said editors are an underappreciated position in terms of the creation of a comic book. Like there's a few editors in my comic book reading that have always stood out to me: Shelley Bond, Karen Berger from Vertigo, and Axel Alonso as well, because he edited two of my favorite series. He's on 100 Bullets, on Preacher. He did a lot of stuff at Marvel. Now he's part of AWA, which you did a book with them, E-Ratic. Phenomenal. I really loved it. I kind of wanted to be able to ask how that project came about and a little bit of where the story for that came from, because you do touch on you touch on comic book tropes, but you kind of take them in a new direction. So it's not your typical superhero book, but I mean, it was something that I really loved. It was my favorite of the AWA books by far. So I'd love to hear the story behind that.
Yeah, well, so Axel was not my first editor at Marvel, but he was one of my first editors at Marvel. He was the first editor that I really established a continual working relationship with. And then eventually he became editor-in-chief, which was great for him, but I kind of lost my favorite editor because you don't actually edit books when you're editor-in-chief. You kind of like, it's a top-down, you're trying to steer the whole ship, not just like, one of the pirates in the ship. So,
yeah.
So when AWA happened and Axel started that up, it was actually a chance for me to work with him again he's still editor-in-chief of AWA, and he's not actually my direct editor in AWA, but it's a smaller ship. So it was more of a chance to work together again, kind of in the spirit that Spider-Man Reign was created. And when it happened, he was like, we're doing these new books for AWA, this new publisher that we're starting up, and we want to build this superhero universe that we can call our own, and if you have any ideas, let me know. And I was like, well, what about a teen superhero, right? What about the Spider-Man of AWA is basically, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, great. And so I just did the very first drawing I ever did of E-Ratic is actually the first page of the book. And it's also, I used it again in the last issue. It was like just him. It just came to me all at once. I knew I wanted to return to like a superhero, because I feel like superhero comics have iterated outward so far from just core superheroes that the new thing, the subversive thing, the unique thing is actually just to do like a straight
Yeah.
up costumed character. I wanted someone like, and I just was so interested in like, what is the superhero archetype? I wanted an animal based superhero, which is not on trend, right? On trend now is, I don't know, galactic super mental beings who like I don't know what they're doing, but I wanted an animal based superpower. I wanted it to be very limited in what could happen, because my least favorite superhero was always Superman. Even though I loved him as a kid, I didn't like reading his stories because he was too powerful. Like his stories never engaged me, but I loved his visuals, and I loved pretending I was Superman, but I didn't want to read the books. I liked Spider-Man. Like, he was so constrained by what he could do, and he was never winning. He was always losing, and I wanted like that kind of a feel of like character with real limitations. And immediately I was like, well, I hate when I'm driving in another city and I'm using my phone to get around and I'm running out of battery power, or I'm waiting for an email, and my phone's almost out of batteries. Like, that's the most stressful situation in modern times. Well, what if that was a superpower? Like, what if whatever he could do is just a bad cell phone? Like, he would just lose its charge and you have to wait a whole day before it charged up again. So that's what came first. It all came at once, really. I was like, okay, that's an erratic superhero. Oh, E-Ratic. I was like, okay, E-Ratic, energy based, but I can make him look like a rat. I'm going to give him a whole suit, cover his whole face. Like, get rid of, like, I don't like that every superhero now is like, there's no secret identities. Like, Tony Stark, there's like, I don't like that. I want my superheroes to hide. I want them to do good things without seeking the fame. I want them to like just be like, I want them to like strive to help people, but not be Instagram influencers, So I just thought, like, what's the core? So like, teenage, he's gonna come from some kind of broken home, not broken like in a bad way, just like, like I grew up with divorced parents. So great, okay, he's got divorced parents. He's got a brother that's popular. He's not that popular. He's kind of the geek. His brother's super popular. Like, well, okay, great. That's kind of like how I grew up, really. He's got some, and it's not really my life, but it's like there's something there that's kind of feels familiar to me, and how I grew up, and like his friends and all this stuff. It's like, it's a weird mix. It all just kind of dumped on me at once. Like, that's how creativity works, I find, is it just happens in surges. And when that surge happens, you have to, as fast as you can, write everything down, do a sketch, whatever it takes, just to get all that information down as quickly as possible. And then that can live and breathe, and you can always go back to it. But it doesn't come in drips. Like, I find creativity does not come in drips. It just comes in these surges. And that one came like just a surge. Now, I found I had a superhero with a tail, which is, for me, such nonsense that it was amazing. Like, I love that. My favorite thing about E-Ratic is he has a tail. Like, I love that so much. So it just kind of all happened at once. And the only thing that changed, really, and I thought, what's a better power today in today's world than a teenager that cannot be recorded by social media? So when E-Ratic uses his powers, you can't record him on videotape. It glitches out the digital video. I thought that's amazing. Now I've lost my train of thought, but it all kind of happened at once, and it was just my job to like capture it, and then here it is. And I just sent Axel like an email with just, here's the only thing that changed was the color palette. Initially, I drew him black and yellow, but he looked so much like Yellow Jacket or whatever from Marvel Comics with that color palette. I was like, I gotta go back to Superman. I don't think it's a coincidence that the two, maybe what are the three most popular superheroes ever? Superman, Spider-Man, Captain America. That combination of red and blue was like, I'm doing that. Okay, I'll just do that. Like, don't give me that. If I'm doing just like what's the core of a superhero, red and blue seems to be, you can see my Superman on my shelf here. There
Yep.
seems to be something about the red and the blue that just, I don't know, makes it work.
Pops.
So
Yeah,
I
it
just,
pops off the page for
yeah.
sure.
So I sent that first email to Axel with just like a, here's E-Ratic, 15 years old, 10-minute power cycle, and one drawing. And then immediately after I hit send, I was like, oh my God, I have to recolor it. So I just quickly recolored it red and blue and then resent it. And then he was like, this is great, let's do it.
Yeah, I think it's just a great superhero story. It's very modern. It's much like, I would say, like how I felt like when Ultimate Spider-Man came out, like it was the teen superhero for a new generation, except yours actually has to me it's more of the perfect blend of, the him in high school, him dealing with the friends, the teachers, and then the superheroics. Like, I love the depiction of his powers. I love the teachers, the principal, the asshole teacher who ends up controlling people, um, the girl who who is the influencer and is trying
Right.
to record him, but the shit keeps getting deleted. And even at the end, when you think he gets the girl, she fucking hates him. So I just think that you fleshed out just that first issue, man. Like, it gave you everything you needed and made you want to come back for more. And I think that is something that's missing in modern superhero comics. We don't have those singular issues that you can pick up and enjoy. And each issue of E-Ratic works well on its own without really, I mean, you should pick up every issue, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like, you made each one a perfect entry point almost.
Well, I just wanted to return to core. I wanted to return to archetype. Like, what is superhero archetype? It's accessible. These are characters you feel like you know because somehow they represent. Somehow they distill reality in a way that is the essence of the reality. Like, it's like a condensed, compressed version of things that are real.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, especially over the past few years, especially the past decade, the new thing to do is to iterate outwards. Like, oh, okay, I'll take that thing that you know, and then I'll add dandelion juice or whatever. Like, I'm like, that thing you love, but now it's a bit different. And it's like, you can do that a few times, but if you make the thing you love a bit different too many times, it will resemble nothing like what you originally liked about whatever, if it's ice cream or our favorite shirt or whatever it was. And I just really felt like right now there's a vacuum of archetypal superheroes. And what an opportunity to just seize that vacuum and just create, like, what is my version of like a core superhero character. And I think why Ultimate Spider-Man worked so well when it came out was it was a return to center. It was a return to that core of whoever that Spider-Man is, or whoever a superhero is, because was the intention, right? It's a relaunch of the same thing happened with Ultimate X-Men. Mark Millar reorientated those characters to their core, not like, oh, here they are in the Martian versions of these characters. It was just like return to core. And I think we know that as people, like when your life stops working, it's probably because you've kind of lost your way. You've chased some rabbit hole in your life. You've pursued a person or a job or an opportunity or something away from what you think you should be, away from who you are. Maybe even if it's alcohol, whatever it is, like there's something about your life that has got skewed and that's fixed to life's problems. Always like, who am I? Return to who I am. I rediscover who I really am inside. And that's always the message. And I think that's right now, that's needs to happen in conflicts. And I love right now that's the vacuum, because I'm doing it. I'm grabbing, I'm steering that, I'm driving that ship, man. And I think people are going to follow, but it's fun to right now I feel like kind of ahead of the pack, and like just the idea of knowing, even realizing the blinders are off. Everyone's scattered so far out where it's just the opportunity is like right in the bullseye. Like the opportunity is right in the bullseye of the target. And I just, I'm having a lot of fun right now.
Yeah, man. And before we get to the project that you got coming up, I want to ask, is there more E-Ratic on the way?
Well, with the way his powers work is after the appropriate charge cycle, they always come back. So that's all I can. Okay. That's all I can say for now. But
fair enough.
I will also say that he's the only character that my kids. I have 3 kids. My 2 sons. My little lady's too little to read to be able to read anything. My two sons is like, it's like literally their favorite character. It's their favorite thing I've ever done. Even though they love Spider-Man, they love all this other stuff. Like they have both told me like, you need to do more of this character because we love it so much. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Okay, I mean, yeah, you even made it. You subbed out the curse words and changed those up too, which
I love that. I love that.
Was
though,
very
right?
clever. Yeah, it was very clever. At first, I'm like, wait, is this a typo? And I'm like, no, he's doing it on purpose, and I like that. I think it's really funny that you.
Well, here's what I found. I found just from doing videos, from making little shorts, or because I also direct some stuff. It's
Right.
actually, I think it's sometimes funnier when there's the bleep and not the curse. Like it's just funnier because your brain
Yeah.
still completes it. But it's
Yes.
just more comedic. It's just more comedic to me to have like some characters show up and go bleep 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 bleep, then to come up and just like unleash a barricade of actual naughty word.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
No,
fun. It's fun.
yeah, I totally get it too. I thought it was hilarious. I enjoyed it, and I want to talk about the new project that you got coming up. I am very, very stoked for from that first cover that I saw that this had like the old fantasy magazine vibes to it. Amazing Fantasy is what you're in a new series. You got World War II Cap, you got High School Peter, and you have I guess you could say Red Room Natasha, aka Black Widow. So
yeah, I say Spy School. I just say Spy School Black Widow.
okay, Spy School Black Widow.
Yeah,
So I am very, very amped about this book. I want to hear a little bit about how this project came about, the decision of like to kind of take these specific eras of the characters. Me, a bearded Cap. I'm loving it, dude. I want to hear the story behind this.
Well, it's kind of the same story as Erratic, to be honest. It was, for me, it was like I wanted to do another project with Marvel, and they were into it, and it was just, what is that going to be? And I kept thinking to myself, like, what? I just want to do something cool that everyone will like, and I want to have fun, and I want to do the thing I want to do. And like, what is that? Like, I love Spider-Man, but I really love teenage Spider-Man the best. And I love Captain America, but I really love World War II Captain America the best. When I think of Spider-Man, I think of teenage Spider-Man. I don't think of 30-year-old Spider-Man. I think of teenage Spider-Man. Yeah. When I think of Captain America, I think of World War II Captain America. I don't think of, I don't know, the secret Hydra agent who's, I don't even know what's going on anymore. I have no idea what's going on anymore. But I have just a crystal clear image of World War II Captain Jack Kirby Captain America in my mind. And when I think of Black Widow, I think of the Russian spy I don't think of the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Black Widow. I think the Russian spy Black Widow. And I thought, well, I could do any one of those characters and just be an in continuity kind of cool thing. But what if I could just do all of them at once? There's no way that can happen because they're all from different eras. But what if I just made up a way to make it happen? What if I took the archetypes of different characters from across timelines, which I don't think has been done before. I'm sure it's been before. In my head, I don't have any memories. I'm sure it's been before. Everything's been done. But for me, I haven't done that before. And then I put them in one story, and I really latched on to the idea of Amazing Fantasy. And Amazing Fantasy is where, of course, Spider-Man, he was born in that book, and then he became Amazing Spider-Man. But people left that fantasy part behind, and I thought, oh, well, what if we didn't leave that behind? Like, what if the fantasy was more important than the amazing in this story? And that would give me license to just do whatever I want. I could bring these different eras together and put them in like just like the characters you remember, no matter when you stopped reading comics or started reading comic books, those versions are all in one story together. Boom. And then it just started building itself. It's a very small, it's not like Secret Wars level size. It's much more smaller, but it's that same idea of like just playing with your favorite toys all at once.
And what can we kind of expect from in terms of like the story and like how the characters all end up together? I know it's a 5-issue series too, correct?
5 issues. Yeah, I'm just finishing inking issue 5 like right now. So if you're a retailer and you happen to be listening, there will be no delays. It's how they get there and what happens when that's all the fun of the story itself. So I can't spoil any of that. But what I can say is that I think the world is ready for stories that bring people together. So I think we're just being sold this lie from everyone in power that we are different and we need to be pitted against each other, and there can only be one winner and everyone else is a loser. Like, I think that is such a lie, and I think the mechanisms of control, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or your politicians or your school systems, everyone is so focused on just dividing people right now. It just is so bizarre. Like, I've never in my history of my life felt the hands on those levers so hard before. And it's
Yeah.
such a visceral feeling of like people trying to agitate people and set them against each other. It's like, feels like I'm Canadian, so I'm not very religious, but if I was religious, I would be terrified right now, because it feels like evil is set loose in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in like the idea of like bringing people together, like bringing different factions, different tribes. And I think you'll see that in the story. It's not a story it's not a story of chaos. It's a story against the chaos. But it's fun. It's like fantasy. It's like, I used to love playing Dungeons and Dragons as a kid. Like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if Captain America was more like a barbarian? Like, like all this stuff that anytime an idea seems fun to me, I just write it down and then I try to incorporate it. Like the swearing, no one told me my kids couldn't swear in my erratic book, but I just think it's funny. So I just, I try to collect all these funny little things. And I think if I have enough funny little things that humor me or make me excited, then other people might get excited at, because I probably share more with other people than I'm different than other people. Even though I'm a bit of a artist, a bit of a, every artist is an outsider, but I feel like we probably have more in common than not. And the more I can put things that make me excited or happy, I think the more the potential is there for other people to feel excited and happy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the book, like from the minute I saw that cover, man, I mean, I was just I grabbed the Marvel previews book and I showed it to I was like, dude, look at this fucking cover. This cover looks so dope.
Look for Zeta. There's the archetype. He has become the archetype of fantasy novels, paperback novels,
yeah.
of our times. And so again, as kind of like a reinvestigation of archetypes. Oh, what if I investigated that? Like, what if I stole some of that energy from Frazetta, like some of that fire from the gods, and like use that to represent my version of archetypes, of fantasy archetypes. Like, I always have these weird ideas that don't quite make sense when I talk about them. So it's a good thing I can do them by myself, because they would not happen if I had to explain them to a team of people. Like, but I'm constantly looking for right now archetypes. Is it the mustache twirling in E-Ratic of the bad guy? Is it the Frazetta version of fantasy? Is it whatever that is? I'm constantly trying to like bring things back to the core, like investigate things back to the core, and then not just mimic, but use that as inject them with the new, like the now. So trying to return to core and then add the new. So it's not just like a mimicry or it's not an homage. It's like, there's always been this quote that I loved. It's bad artists trace, good artists borrow, and great artists steal. And I am stealing archetypes right now, because when you steal, if you're tracing something, you'll kind of just like try to get the lines so the way someone else did it, and they'll probably be a little off and it'll look okay, but they'll always feel traced. And if you try to borrow something, you're just so shy about things. You don't want to get too close to the things you love, because then you'll get accused of borrowing or stealing. But so everything will be subpar. You'll be stuck in that subpar level of, I can't make a Lamborghini, so I guess I'll make a Volkswagen Golf. Like, but if you just like steal things, what you're really doing is you're giving yourself permission to exceed. Well, I don't know if you can exceed someone like Frazetta, but you give yourself permission to do that. You give yourself permission. You're laying the runway to like not worry about it. Take what you want, bring it back here, then make it your own. and that is actually art. Like when you like draw is not an external thing. It's not something you do. Like draw is collect, to draw in and then make it your own and then push it back out. Like that's what I love so much.
Yeah, I mean, Frazetta is like one of my favorite artists, like hands down. I mean, that's like my wife and I. That's kind of how when we were friends. Like she had like sketches in her book because she paints all this stuff behind me, and she
Cool.
had all these sketches for Frazetta, and I'm like, dude, I love this dude's art, and like I don't think I knew the name at first. I don't think
Yeah.
his name. I just knew his stuff, and she's like, oh, it's Frank Frazetta. I'm like, holy shit, and like just such a huge fan of his work. And I mean, you mentioned Drew Struzan too, so like two of like really heavy hitters in terms of painting, different styles, but very, very famous painters in their own right. And I was kind of curious, like you said you're drawing from Frazetta, and I saw a video of you, like you airbrush some of your covers. So are all your covers that you color, are they all like painted like traditionally? Or
No. It all depends
okay,
on the look.
all
I mean,
right, all right, all right.
so when I first broke into comic books, I wanted to oil paint covers. I thought, like, oh, what's the coolest paintings I see? These oil paints. But I didn't have enough money to. Oil paints are very expensive when you're a young punk. But I had a tablet, and on my tablet it came with this little paint program that had like an oil paint function, and I found that just by necessity, I learned how to digitally paint, and I was one of the first cover artists at Marvel to digitally paint covers. I remember the first cover was one of the first covers I did. I decided to paint. I didn't want to ask permission because I don't think that's how you get things done in the world. So I just painted it and then sent it off and just like, but Axel loved it. He's like, this is amazing. Do more of this. And so I was like, okay, great. So then I started doing more of that. And I was one of the first ones to be doing digital painting. But along the way, this was 20 years ago. So over the way, now everyone's a digital painter and everyone's digitally painting. So I became less interested in it. I became more interested in like, because I'm always trying to zig. Not trying. I have these impulses to zig while the crowd is zagging. So I just became interested in Drew Struzan. I always loved his stuff. And I was like, well, what if I airbrushed? Like, I don't own an airbrush, but what if I go buy an airbrush, buy a compressor, buy some paint, and just see what happens? And I don't do practice pieces because I don't have time, and I don't like it. Like I need high stakes to make good art. So I just thought, oh, I got this Darth Vader cover. Why not do a Drew Struzan approach on a Darth Vader cover? So I just like did it, and it was so much fun and so exciting, and so the stakes are so high because if you mess up on an airbrush, like it's ruined. There's no undo button. Like everything is a high risk. So I did a bunch of these, and I'm still doing a bunch of airbrush covers because it's really fun. But for like my Amazing Fantasy, that's digitally painted just because the look I want would maybe be oil paint, but I'm still, what I really wanted to do is not again, I didn't want to mimic anything. I didn't want to copy things. I wanted to just steal and transcend. So those covers, yeah, the short answer is the Amazing Fantasy covers are all digital. E-Ratic's all digital. That's all digital stuff.
Right.
And but I'll still do covers. Like I just did a Iron Fist cover that was airbrushed.
It was so dope. I know that cover was awesome, dude. Again, I wasn't getting the series because I just, sometimes I just trade weight, just in terms of because of money, right? But that cover, dude, my God. So and then you did those Joker Killer Smile. The cover, were those airbrush too?
Yeah, those ones I really wanted like a tactile paint. I wanted dripping paint. So I wanted like that dripping kind of like, again, probably stealing from Dave McKean a little bit there with the Arkham Asylum. Like I love that book so much. As a kid, that was the first hardcover comic I ever read. Like, oh my God, the first painted thing I ever read was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I just like that it's like, it feels like paint. And so I knew I couldn't achieve that digitally, but I could achieve that with paint. So and then I've started doing a lot of weird things where maybe I'll start a cover on the computer, print it out and paint over it. Or the other way, I'll draw it on paper, scan it in, do some things, print it back out, then paint over it again. Like I just like experimenting and trying new techniques.
I mean, it goes back to what I said at the top of the show, man. Your versatility is just like, you do so many different types of things with your art. And that's why that's why I'm such a fan of your work. And that's why it's so exciting to see every project you do, everything that you got, coming out, because it's you don't ever copy yourself. You're always pushing
Yeah.
yourself forward and doing something different than the last project before. You look at Erratic and Amazing Fantasy, two different types of projects.
Yeah,
Very,
I would not recommend it. I mean, I think the smart way to do it is to really own a style. Everyone knows you by that style, and you build your career on that style. That's really the smart way to do it. But I just have never been interested in that. So I feel like I do good art when the risk of failure is really high. And that's always like, I think that's why I want to try new things all the time, is because like there's this idea of flow state where to be flow state, you have to kind of like be empty mind, really high stakes. And that's really like athletes perform under these pressure situations, right? That's when you can really perform, when the stakes are really high. But you get into this flow state and you can do better than you would normally. So I think there's some weird statistic where athletes run faster at the Olympics than they normally do in any other event because the stakes are so high. So
right.
for me to do good work, I like to be on the edge of failure at all times, because the stress of that makes me a better artist, I think. So when I'm trying new things, that's probably me trying to put myself on the edge of failure and trying to ride that, because if you can ride the edge of failure, that's when you can really push through. But when you play things safe, like what's the worst thing you can say about an artist is that, oh, you're a hack. What does that mean? You're just copying your previous work. Like, isn't it weird that even the most amazing artists ever, the worst thing you can call them is not that they're drawing too weird, it's that they're a hack. It looks like their old stuff. Like, to me, that's interesting. That must mean that part of what we love about art is that you're witnessing, embedded in an image, the progression of someone's life. And so you have, if like plants either reach toward the sun or they die. So I think they don't just like stay frozen. You need to like keep reaching. And at some point, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. But the biggest failure is to stop reaching for the unknown, I think.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I completely agree. I love watching some of my favorite artists, like their early work all the way to like 2 years later, 3 years, and so on, after I discovered their stuff. And like I said, yours, I've obviously seen your growth, and I like from project to project, or between your writing, your art, it's just, I just love your stuff, man. And I'm excited to see what else you got in the works. Is there anything besides Amazing Fantasy, now that you're wrapping that up or you're nearing the end of it, since you're working on issue 5, what do you have else in the works?
I will say, let's focus on Amazing Fantasy right now.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of covers always that are that are coming out. Do some Doctor Strange covers right now, etc. But I'll say E-Ratic. The trade for E-Ratic came out just this month. Pick that up. I think it's only coming out in Amazon like now-ish. Amazing Fantasy is coming out end of the month, and then who knows? Maybe we'll talk again, and we can talk about whatever's after that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for whatever you got. And like, one last thing about Amazing Fantasy, I have to say your cover design, the way you're designing the covers is just, I love it. Like I said, it looks like old fantasy magazines, like from back in like the 70s and stuff like that. How important was that for you to kind of have that look for the book instead of, just having like the logo with, regular cover dress?
Yeah, well, I found very early on that I've done a lot of covers. I've been primarily known probably as a cover artist just because of I've done so many of them. And I found very early on, I was doing Hulk covers, one of my first big cover runs. And just to make the cover work the way I wanted it to, I redid the logo. And Axel loved it, and he started to use it as the logo of the book. And I was like, I just started become very interested in like, okay, well, I can do these logos. So I have done a lot of logos for my books, like, because when you're doing the cover, the logo is actually part of the cover. Like, no one rarely sees your work without the logo. So if you can design the logo and the art, well, now you have more communication tools. And then if you can do that, well, now you can do other weird things like other text in the covers, or stressing out the covers, or adding effects to the covers as a graphic element. And I've always been interested in graphic design. Almost became a graphic designer when I was in art school, but I love that process. Like, if I can do the title treatments, and the art, then I'm in full control of the communication of whatever I'm trying to do. And for Amazing Fantasy, it was important for me to do two things with that book. One is to announce this is different than what's currently available to you from Marvel Comics. This is not a standard miniseries of Marvel. This will be a different experience. And two, I really wanted to reference that other time, that kind of like the archetype of what fantasy means. And to do that, I really needed control over the graphic elements of that book. So I started looking at mostly old Conan books, cover books. Like where's the placement of the text? What are they saying? What's the design of those images in relation to the text? And you know, I wanted to announce it, like, hey, this is new, this is different. Like, look over here. Like, as an artist, you're always like, you're just trying to scream, like, look this way with anything you do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that everything about that cover just it spoke to me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like especially the fantasy genre is not utilized as much as I like. So when I saw that and it like totally gave off like old school fantasy vibes, it just it got me super amped. I think, you know, everybody listening and watching, make sure you pick up the book when it comes out at the end of the month. I know.
Listen, I also wanted to be very clear that like these are orcs and like frog people. Like, this is not like Marvel film fantasy. This is not techno fantasy. This is not like, or, you know, in the Marvel film world, this is like actual orcs. And this is actual like old school. Like, I wanted to be very clear that this is like old school, like barbarians and orcs. There's no like, you know, I see some modern interpretations of fantasy that are going really techno, kind of like, it just feels more of the same. But I want it to be like, this is a return to center. Like, this is a return to like, what's the archetype of fantasy? It's like green muscle bound orcs like capturing little elf girls, and you know, Conan type warrior freeing the elf girl from the clutches of these orcs. Like, like that's, to me, that's like straight up, like, I wanted straight up return to core. Like, this is archetypal stuff that you're going to experience like right here. You know, that's the intention. I don't know if I've succeeded, but I just wanted to like keep grabbing these archetypes, as many as I could, and just like give them like, you like straight, like if you're boxing, what's the most effective punch? It's straight, right? Because it's just clean. Maybe it's a straight jab, maybe it's a 1-2. There's no funny work. There's no trickery. It's just clean, and it's just like, that's the most effective punching, especially when everyone's used to like, oh, where's the spin kick and the you know, the hook or whatever. It's just like bop bop, and it's just, you know, that's what I'm looking for, that like the power of just like clean core. And there's a vacuum right now, I think, in that kind of storytelling, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm going for with this book.
Well, I mean, I'll be the first to let you know, man, because I know that when you know, when it comes out, it's definitely gonna be one of our weekly reads. You know, when, you know, one of our picks for the week on this podcast, we're definitely going to be talking about it. So I can't wait for it. Very excited. I'm sure there's other stuff that you can't talk about that you're working on. That's why we're sticking with Amazing, but that's fine. I'll definitely hit you up again in the future to talk about future stuff. But I do want to know, before I let you go, I always like asking, you know, like creators that I'm talking to, what are you currently reading? What are you currently into that you'd like to kind of like give a recommendation for?
Oh goodness, that is a stumpy question. It's actually the question I hate, because I feel like there's so much underneath that question. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who, even when you work in Hollywood or whatever, you're taking a general with whoever. That's a question people ask, because they're trying to get a grasp of your taste by asking you what your. And there's so much embedded in that question that I have a lot of friends that like, they have worked out the right answer to say that will let people know that they're intelligent, thoughtful, have great taste, but humble about it. But it's very, it's niche, but not too niche that you've never heard of it. It's niche enough that you know it and you like it too, and then you can be in the same club of cool kids. And I can't answer that question because there's just
Okay.
so much embedded in it that if I answer the wrong way, it'll destroy the trust of whoever's watching. And if I answer it in the right way, I feel like I'm just playing that same. I feel like I don't. I feel like I'd be playing. I feel like I'd be playing a game if I answered it. I'll tell you this. One thing that my wife and I are going through again is this is not comic related, so it's a bit safe.
Yeah.
Is we're going through the latest. We're rewatching Homeland again for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I think that's safe enough. It's not comic related. I'm not gonna get anyone. I don't know. I'm not gonna get anyone. I'm not gonna get judged. I'm not gonna get judged.
I do it more for selfish reasons because I'm always hoping that I'll learn about something new that I didn't know about. That's usually why I ask.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I get it. I'm just saying.
No, it's all good.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. Totally get it.
I'm always wary of that question. It's always the question I never answer right either. But that's probably why. If I had mastered how to answer that question properly, I'd probably be ready. Just ready to win.
Just a list to read off.
Just taped to my monitor, but pretend I'm not reading it.
All right. Well, thank you again, dude, for doing this with me. I had a blast talking with you. I definitely want to do this again with you in the future, talk some future projects when you got stuff that you want to talk about. But before I let you go, if you could real quick, just share with everybody listening, watching, where we can find you online, where we can follow you. And I will drop all those links down below. Yeah.
So you can kind of follow my art on Instagram. I try to keep it just clean art. I try to stay away from, I'm not showing pictures of me eating burgers or any kind of, the nonsense. I'm trying to keep it real. I'm trying not to iterate outwards right now. So Instagram is probably the best, just to kind of I'll throw up my covers there. Sometimes I'll throw up some process pictures there. That's just my name. And I have a YouTube channel that I was kind of dabbling with, and I haven't found a way to do it in a way that doesn't feel weird. So I may be returning to it, but if you can subscribe to it, but there will not be any content for a while for that channel. But again, it's just my name, and that's kind of really the only place to find me right now. There was a time when I thought that I really did a thing with Iron Fist, especially. I was like, okay, I'm really going to try to use the social media thing to sell some books. Twitter, Facebook, I'm really going to use those tools to pimp out these books. And I found at the end of the day, it made no difference. And it just became a huge time suck and a big social media addiction for me. I just after that, I was like, this is a waste of my, I could just be making stuff instead of just trying to win the social media game. It's such a game. These corporations, they're trying to control your time, monopolize your time, your information, your energy, your friends, your connections. And it just feels like it all feels like a big trick right now. So for me, the way to win the game is to really focus on the work and talk to someone like you. This has been a lot of fun, but focus on what I'm doing and focus less on making myself dance for these masters of ours. I don't know. There's something so corrupt about the world right now. I just need to focus on the stuff.
Yeah, dude. No, I totally get it. I mean, half the time I just go on, I share the link, and I jump off. Or I'll Instagram's probably the app I use the most, right? Because I like looking at art.
Oh, Instagram is, I find it very inspiring. If any of even my friends start posting tons of political stuff or just food pictures or whatever, I just have to mute them, because I just want the hit of inspiration, and then maybe spend a couple minutes just looking at all the cool art or sculptures or photography. I love being inspired. So for me, Instagram is the best place to just get those sweet nuggets of inspiration. But Twitter is just
it's a dumpster fire is what it is.
Oh my gosh.
It really is. It's horrible. I only share the link on there. That's the only thing I do, just so that anybody that is following me, they can click it from there, because that's just how sometimes they get views. But yeah.
And if you're on Twitter, hey, I'm not judging anyone who loves Twitter, because for some people that's their jam, that gets them going. But for me, I just feel counterproductive. Just
Yeah, I mean, you can fall down rabbit holes on Twitter, so I but again, thank you so much, everybody. Make sure you go follow Kaare on his Instagram. full of dope art on there. Make sure you check out Amazing Fantasy. Go pick up E-Ratic as well. And Kaare, again, thank you. And I can't wait to do this with you again, dude.
Awesome, Ryan. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much.